Welcome to a new video. As mentioned in the last video for this console killer PC, we were actually going to build it. This is what's going to happen in this video basically. Just a short refresher on what parts we chose for this PC. We have a Ryzen 4500, which is about 60 bucks, so very cheap and a better choice than the i3 for 100 bucks. Then we have that on a Asus B450 Plus motherboard combined with 16 or 32 gigabytes of DDR4 3200, depending on what your budget exactly is, together with a Radeon RX 6650 XT. You can also choose the 6600 if that's significantly cheaper, because those are the same GPUs, just with different clock speeds. But this is basically the same price, so yeah, just choose what's cheaper for you. And the other components we chose are a 970 Evo SSD because those are relatively cheap. You could also choose a normal Sata SSD and save up a few bucks for, well, something else, or if you don't have that much cash. And we chose a system powered 10 power supply from Be Quiet, because get a reputable brand power supply, because cheap power supplies under 30 bucks, yeah, just stay away from those, and they're not good. So choose a reliable brand and something that's not gonna explode. Also, something that's not really that special is the case we chose, which is an Aerocool 300 or whatever it's called. Doesn't really matter that much. It was the cheapest one that at least looked like it had some airflow, because most of the boxes that you can get for below 30 bucks are like closed front panel, no fans included, and this at least has front fan and a front panel that is mesh. And you could add also another 1, 2, 3 and on the side panel a fourth fan, so there would be enough ventilation even if you decide to upgrade your CPU or GPU later. That's basically it for this PC. We are going to build it now, and I'm going to show you how to build it, because probably there are some of you that don't know how to build a PC, and this video is going to show you how to do it if you don't know it basically. So yeah, have fun, and in the next video we'll see how much power this system has, what it can handle, and how it compares to the consoles. First, we are going to install the CPU. To do that, we are going to lift up the lever found on the bottom side of the socket and then line up the marks on the CPU and the socket itself, or rather the motherboard. And insert the CPU without applying any force on it. And then again, pushing down on the lever until it's seated and the CPU is installed. For installing the stock cooler, we first need to remove the stock AMD retention bracket. So we're going to unbolt the 4 screws that hold these plastic brackets in. The backplate can be kept in place. Then we're going to put the CPU cooler down on the 4 posts that stick out, and in a crisscross pattern screw it down about 1 turn at a time, so that it does not break anything, and plug in the connector into the CPU fan socket. For installing RAM, first open all the tabs on your motherboard and put in the DIMMs in slots 2 and 4 so that they run in dual channel, and press down until they click in place. Then we're going to install the SSD. First of all, we need the standoff installed. Then just put in your SSD in the top slot until it fits in snugly, and then just screw it down. The motherboard at this point is pretty much prepared for installation, and the next thing we are going to worry about is the case and preparing that for the installation of the motherboard. First, we're going to take off both side panels and we're going to install the power supply first. That makes it a bit easier in this case. On the bottom, put it in from behind, put in all 4 screws. There's only 4 positions that they can go in. After that, I recommend routing the CPU power cable through the hole on the motherboard tray, since our motherboard or our case is designed so that it can't be done after installing in the motherboard. And then we installed the I/O shield that is included with the motherboard. Don't forget this step because that is important. If you forget it, you'd have to pull out the motherboard again and reinstall it. So better do it now than do everything again. Then we can install the motherboard standoffs. Just check on both components what standoffs are installed, or rather what needs to be installed. In our case, it is 6 standoffs that should be installed in the case. Then just put in the motherboard, lift it up on one side and tilt it into the case. And watch out that you don't scrape the motherboard on the standoffs so you don't damage it. And just look at the backside of the motherboard at the ports so that they go through and that you don't have any pins in the way or whatever. Some motherboards, or most of the higher end motherboards, have I/O shields included, so you don't need to worry about this step. But in this case, you need to look out for the accessibility of the ports. Then we just bolt down the motherboard as well. Again, here, do it in a crisscross pattern, or rather just put in all the screws loosely at first and then torque them down. They don't need to be too tight. You can damage the motherboard that way, so just finger tight, I'd suggest. We'll also plug in the 8-pin power now, because now it is still relatively easily accessible. Then we're going to feed through all the cables from behind, so 24-pin, 6-pin or 8-pin PCI Express power, and the front panel connectors such as USB and front panel audio, and plug in the 24-pin at the front, and also all of the front panel connectors. For the power switches and LEDs, I would strongly suggest looking into the manual, because on any motherboard or on different motherboard vendors, this might be different than on some others, although they are almost the same nowadays, so you might not have to worry about it, but still it's better to check in the manual. We're also going to connect the case fan to a case fan header. As a last step, we are going to install the graphics card. For that, remove the bracket at the back of the case. In our case, it can be different on yours if you bought a different case. And your slot covers also might be fixed by screws and not have to be bent out of the way like it is here. We're just going to use 2 slot covers, so where the GPU fits in. And then just line up the GPU to the slot, push it in firmly until it clicks and the slot locks. And bolt it up at the rear with the 2 screws that are assigned to these 2 holes. Make sure you can access all ports on the backside, because some of the cheaper cases you might have some trouble with that. So just make sure that the case is not in the way. Also, we have to connect every power connector that is available on the graphics card now. So any 8-pin, 6-pin or whatever, just connect all of those. And the last thing we'll do is we'll do some cable management so that we don't have to sit on our side panels like some other people did in their low budget system. Because some of the cases just don't have much room at the backside, this case included. And that's basically everything. As I said, in one of the next videos, we'll be showing you the performance of the system. And as always, have a nice day and goodbye.